Evelyn woke before sunrise, the way she always did on days that mattered. She brewed tea, checked the list she had written by hand, and then checked it again. The cake was paid, the flowers were arriving at 10 o'clock. The pastel balloons, the white chairs, the tiny glass jars with lemon candies, all booked under her name. She had even arranged a photo corner with a soft blanket and a wooden sign that read, "Welcome, little star." It was Lena's day, she told herself. It would be perfect. She ran her finger down the list and smiled when she reached the last line, "Balance charged after event." That way, if something went wrong, vendors wouldn't be left unpaid.
She always thought about people like that.
By 9, she was dressed in a light blue dress and a silver shawl. She looked in the mirror and almost did not recognize the woman staring back. A little older, yes, but proud. She pinned the small brooch Lena made in elementary school to her shawl. It was shaped like a lopsided heart. Evelyn kissed it and whispered, "For you." The community hall hummed when she arrived. Tables gleamed with soft linens. White vases held pink peonies. Sunlight spilled through the tall windows. A decorator waved from a ladder. "Miss Harper, the arch looks beautiful," she said. Evelyn thanked her and moved through the room, fixing small things, turning a chair, straightening a napkin, tying a ribbon twice so it wouldn't slip. She placed her gift, a hand-stitched baby quilt, near the front, the colors matching the flowers exactly. Lena came in a little later, one hand on her belly, the other wrapped around a paper cup. She looked lovely and tired in a cream dress. Evelyn's heart swelled at the sight. "You look like spring," she said, opening her arms. But Lena only gave a quick, careful smile and glanced over her shoulder. Mark followed a step behind, phone in hand, jaw set the way it always was when he thought someone might take control from him. "Hi, Mom," Lena said, her voice thin. "Thanks for everything." "Everything and nothing," Evelyn replied. "It's your day." She wanted to hug her longer, but Mark cleared his throat and Lena pulled away. Guests arrived in waves. Laughter, clapping, the pop of a confetti cannon someone thought would be fun. The room filled with women from Lena's office, friends from college, neighbors who remembered Lena as a little girl riding her bike in circles on the street. Evelyn moved quietly through the crowd, making sure everyone found a seat, guiding a grandmother to the front, asking the DJ to lower the volume just a bit. She did not try to be seen. She only wanted Lena to feel adored. The game started. Guess the baby food. Write a wish for the baby. Everyone cheered when Lena guessed right, and Evelyn clapped until her palms stung. The cake was rolled out, pale pink with tiny sugar stars. Cameras flashed. People shouted for more pictures. Evelyn stepped back, so she wouldn't be in the way. She caught the decorator's eye and mouthed, "Thank you." The woman smiled. Then, just as the caterers brought out warm trays and the room settled into that soft, happy buzz, Mark stood. He didn't raise his glass. He didn't smile. He tapped the side of a spoon against a plate, sharp metallic until every voice dropped. "I need to say something," he announced. "Lena wants today to be stress-free." He looked straight at Evelyn, and his mouth tightened into a line. "Evelyn, she doesn't want you here. Please leave." The air went out of the hall. Someone's fork clinked against a plate, and then stopped. Heads turned in a slow, stunned wave. Lena kept her eyes on the tablecloth as if reading the tiny pattern could save her. Color drained from her face, then returned in a blotchy rush. No one spoke. Evelyn felt it like a stone thrown through glass. The soundless shatter. She saw all the small things at once. The cake she had chosen because strawberry was Lena's favorite when she was 6. The streamer taped imperfectly to a window because she'd done it herself when the decorator ran out of time. The quilt waiting at the front like a quiet secret. She looked at her daughter first, not at the crowd. "Lena," she asked softly, "is that what you want?" Lena didn't lift her head. I don't want drama," she whispered so softly only the nearest guests heard. Shame crawled over her face. Mark's voice cut through again, harder this time. "Please leave." Evelyn breathed in once, all the way to the bottom of her lungs. There were 100 things she could have said. She could have told the room who signed the checks. She could have told Mark how he took credit for plans he never made. She could have told Lena how many nights she stayed up sewing that quilt, picking out patches from pieces of Lena's childhood dresses. Instead, she straightened her shawl, pressed the brooch with her fingertip, and nodded. "Of course," she said, and she smiled. Not the kind of smile that begs, not the kind that fights. A small, steady smile that belonged to her alone. She picked up her purse, left her gift where it was, and walked between the tables. A few guests rose halfway as if to stop her, then sat again uncertain. The decorator looked stricken. Someone whispered, "Isn't she the one who?" and then bit the rest of the sentence in half. Outside, the afternoon smelled of cut grass. Evelyn's heels clicked on the stone path. She didn't look back. She unlocked her car and sat without starting it, hands on the wheel. The silence pressed around her like a blanket. For a long minute, she did nothing. Then she placed her forehead gently against the steering wheel and let one breath tremble out of her. Only one. She would not give them more. She drove home slowly, stopping at every yellow light, like someone learning the rules again. The house greeted her with ordinary quiet, a clock ticking, the refrigerator humming, a beam of sun across the kitchen table. On the table lay the folder she had assembled for the shower. Contracts, vendor numbers, receipts with her signature. She set her purse down and opened the folder, more out of habit than intention. The papers were neat, corners sharp. Catering final charge after event. Venue balance, due 6 p.m. furniture delivery for nursery Saturday. Paid on arrival. She traced each line with the back of a fingernail, not yet thinking about what those words meant. Her phone buzzed with a message from the venue manager. "Hope the event is going smoothly, Miss Harper. We'll run the final charge this evening as scheduled." Another message blinked in. "Nursery delivery confirmation for Evans/H. Harper. See you tomorrow." The names sat side by side and pricked her like a pin. Across the kitchen, on the fridge, the sonogram photo she'd copied and magnetized smiled at her in its blurry moonlit way. She stood and touched the little white curve that would one day be a nose. "You will be loved," she said, her voice firm again. The phone lit with a new text, this one from Mark. "Thanks for understanding." Nothing else, no apology, no shame, only ownership, as if he had done something noble. Evelyn stared at the words until they blurred. She put the phone face down, closed the folder, and pulled it back toward her, close like a chessboard, waiting for the next move. Outside, a car door slammed somewhere on the street. The clock ticked on. Evelyn sat very still and listened to the sound. And for the first time all day, she allowed herself to consider what dignity might look like in action. Evelyn didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back, staring at the ceiling, the hum of the fridge in the kitchen the only sound in the house. Every time she closed her eyes, she heard Mark's voice again. "Evelyn, she doesn't want you here. Please leave." It replayed sharp and cold, louder than the laughter of the guests that had followed. She turned over, clutching the quilt she had spent weeks sewing, and whispered to herself, why didn't she stop him? Why didn't she say anything? But no answer came, just the same hollow silence. When the first light of morning touched her curtains, Evelyn swung her legs out of bed and walked to the kitchen. On the table sat the folder of contracts and receipts she had left open. She poured herself coffee, black and bitter, and sat down to read each page again. This time, not with pride, but with new eyes. Every line told a story. The catering company's receipt bore her signature. The hall rental was under her name. The delivery contract for the furniture that would fill Lena and Mark's new house had her bank details. Evelyn traced her finger over each date and amount. Every single thing that made Lena and Mark's life comfortable had come through her hands. The thought hurt and calmed her at the same time. She wasn't angry in a wild way. She was calm. A dangerous calm. The kind that doesn't shout or break dishes. The kind that thinks. Her phone buzzed mid-morning. A text from Lena. Mom, I'll call later. Just tired. Don't take yesterday too personally. Evelyn read it twice. Not personally. She had been thrown out of her daughter's baby shower in front of everyone she knew. There was nothing less personal than that.
She didn't reply.
Instead, she dialed the catering company. The young woman who answered recognized her voice instantly. "Oh, Miss Harper, was everything all right yesterday?" Evelyn paused for a moment, then said, "No, I need to cancel the balance payment. Please don't deliver lunch trays today. I won't be covering it." The woman hesitated. "Are you sure? We already have the second delivery ready for them." "Don't," Evelyn said simply and hung up. Next, she called the furniture company. A cheerful man answered. "Mrs. Harper, we're excited about setting up the nursery tomorrow." She swallowed hard. That nursery had been her idea. The crib, the rocking chair, the dresser painted in soft white. She could picture Lena's face lighting up when she saw it. But then she pictured Lena staring at the tablecloth while Mark told her to leave. Evelyn's voice came out steady. "Cancel the delivery. The order will not be completed." The man asked, "Do you want to reschedule?" "No, just cancel." Finally, she called the hall manager. "Yes, this is Evelyn Harper. Please do not process the final charge for yesterday's event. The card you have on file is mine, and I am revoking authorization." By the time she ended the last call, her coffee was cold. She set the mug aside and pressed her hands together, palms tight. Her chest felt heavy but not weak. For the first time in years, she wasn't the helper, the silent giver, the one who stayed in the background. She had pulled the thread holding everything together, and she knew what would happen when the fabric unraveled. Hours later, while she was folding laundry, her phone rang. It was Lena. Evelyn let it buzz until it stopped. A minute later, another call came in. This time from Mark, then again from Lena, then again. By evening, her call log showed 30 missed calls. She picked up the phone once just to read the messages that had started pouring in. From Lena, "Mom, please call me. The caterers left. People are upset." From Mark, "You didn't need to cancel everything. This is childish." From Lena again, "The hall manager says we owe money we don't have. What happened? Please answer." Another one followed. "The furniture company took back everything. They said payments were canceled. Why are you doing this?" Evelyn set the phone down. She walked into the kitchen, pulled out a pot, and began making soup. Carrots, onions, chicken. She stirred slowly, listening to the rhythm of the spoon against the pot. It calmed her, steadied her breathing. Her phone lit up again, this time with a call from an unknown number. She knew it was likely one of Lena's friends, maybe someone who had been at the shower. She ignored it. By 9 o'clock that night, there were 57 missed calls. The last message from Lena was nearly unreadable, written through panic. "Please, Mom, just talk to me."
People left.
"Everyone is talking. Mark is furious. I don't know what to do." Evelyn carried her bowl of soup to the table, sat down, and ate slowly. For once, she wasn't rushing to fix anyone's crisis. She wasn't running to cover someone else's mistake. She was simply letting things fall where they belonged. As she finished her meal, she glanced at the sonogram photo still pinned to her fridge. The little blur of life growing inside her daughter. Evelyn whispered, almost as if to the baby itself, "Someday you'll know your grandmother never walked away." She was pushed. She washed her bowl, dried it, and turned off the kitchen light. In the quiet darkness of her house, Evelyn finally allowed herself one long breath of relief. She hadn't shouted. She hadn't begged. She had simply shown them the truth. Without her, everything they thought they had built stood on sand. Tomorrow, she knew the begging would begin. And for once, she would not be the one bending. The morning sun filtered through Evelyn's curtains, but she stayed in bed longer than usual. Her phone, lying on the nightstand, was buzzing every few minutes. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Lena, Mark, maybe even some of their friends. She finally sat up, rubbed her temples, and reached for it. 67 missed calls. Dozens of text messages filled the screen, one stacked on top of another, each more desperate than the last. From Lena, "Mom, please just answer." The guests left hungry. The cake wasn't even served properly. Everyone is gossiping. I can't stop crying. From Mark, "You've embarrassed us. You didn't have to go this far. Call me back, so we can fix this. From Lena again. The hall shut the lights off before we finished. We couldn't pay. Do you know how humiliating that was? Evelyn scrolled slowly, her face unreadable. She set the phone down without replying. She walked into the kitchen, brewed her tea, and sat at the table with her notebook. For years, her mornings had been about others, planning meals for family visits, making lists of things Lena needed, keeping Mark's preferences in mind because Lena insisted it was easier that way. Today, for the first time, her list was short, just 2 lines. Pay electricity bill, buy fresh bread. The silence of the house wrapped around her like a shield. By mid-morning, the knocking began. At first, it was faint, then louder. Evelyn glanced through the curtain and saw a car parked at the curb. Lena stepped out, her face pale, her hair uncombed. She carried her phone in her hand like a lifeline. Mark stayed in the car, tapping furiously on his screen, jaw tight. "Mom, please open the door." Lena's voice cracked as she called from the porch. "We just want to talk." Evelyn stayed still. She wasn't ready. Not yet. She watched her daughter through the glass, remembering her as a child who used to bring her drawings of houses and flowers. Now that same child stood there with swollen eyes, unable to even look her in the face, without shame. The knocking faded after a while. Evelyn returned to her tea. Later that afternoon, another series of messages appeared. From Lena. "Everyone is blaming me. They say I should have stood up for you. Mark says it was for the best, but I feel sick." From Mark. "You're overreacting. We'll pay you back for the hall. Just stop making this worse." The arrogance in Mark's tone almost made Evelyn laugh. Pay her back with what money? He didn't even realize that their mortgage, their car lease, their comfort, all of it had been cushioned by her. He was still pretending he held control. As evening approached, Evelyn decided to water the plants in her small garden. She stepped outside with her watering can and breathed in the cool air. For a moment, she felt peace, but then her neighbor, Mrs. Carter, called over the fence. "Evelyn, I heard what happened. Is it true they told you to leave?" Evelyn gave a polite smile. "People talk, Mrs. Carter. You know how it is." Mrs. Carter shook her head, lips pressed tight. "Well, if it were me, I'd never forgive them." Evelyn didn't reply. She simply poured water onto her roses, watching the soil drink it up. She wasn't thinking about forgiveness yet. She was thinking about truth. That night, her phone rang again. And this time she picked up. She didn't say hello. She just let the other side speak. "Mom, it was Lena," her voice trembling. "Please don't hang up. I don't know what to do. Everyone saw. Everyone knows what happened. They left early, shaking their heads. I feel so small. Like I ruined everything." "You didn't ruin anything," Evelyn said quietly. "You let him do it for you." Lena sobbed on the line. "I was scared. He said it would be easier if you weren't there. He kept telling me you were controlling everything. I didn't want to fight with him." Evelyn closed her eyes. "So, instead you fought with me?" Silence stretched on the line. Then Lena whispered, "I'm sorry. I should have spoken up. I should have defended you." Evelyn's tone stayed even, almost too calm. "Sorry doesn't feed people. Sorry doesn't pay bills. Respect, Lena. That's all I ever wanted." Lena cried harder. "What do I do now? Everyone is talking. Mark is furious. The house, Mom. They're saying the furniture won't come. The baby's room is empty." Evelyn let the words settle. Then she said, "Maybe now you'll understand how much I've done." Quietly, without asking for thanks. "Please," Lena begged. "Just fix it. One call. That's all it takes." But Evelyn didn't promise anything. "I already made my call." She ended the conversation before Lena could respond. She placed the phone down gently on the counter, as if it were something fragile. Outside, the neighborhood had gone dark, one house at a time until only street lights remained. Evelyn stood by her window, looking out at the stillness, her reflection faintly visible in the glass. For years, she had been invisible by choice, helping in silence, loving without question, giving without measure. But tonight, for the first time, they were the ones seeing what life looked like without her. And that truth, Evelyn thought as she pulled the curtains closed, was worth more than any apology. Evelyn woke to soft rain tapping the window. She made tea and stood by the sink, steadying herself for whatever would come next. She didn't have to wait long. A car door shut outside. Then the bell, not rushing, not hiding. She opened the door. Lena stood there with a small overnight bag and swollen eyes. Behind her, the street looked gray and tired. "Mom," she whispered, her voice cracked. "Can I come in?" Evelyn stepped aside. Lena entered like someone walking into a church. Quiet, guilty, careful. She set the bag down and took a breath that shook. "I'm sorry," she said. Not in a text. "Here. I'm sorry." Evelyn nodded once. "Sit." They sat at the kitchen table. The folder of contracts lay where Evelyn had left it. For a moment, neither spoke. The refrigerator hummed. "I have to tell you something," Lena said, her hands twisted in her lap. "Mark planned it." She looked up, eyes wet. "He told me all week that you would make it about yourself and that he had to set a boundary in front of everyone. I didn't agree, but I didn't stop him. I was afraid he'd start a fight in front of guests if I pushed back." She unlocked her phone and slid it across the table. What Lena read on the screen were messages she had saved. "Don't worry, I'll handle your mom. It's time she knows her place. If she pays for things, she thinks she owns us. I'll cut that off." Evelyn read each line slowly, as if they were lines from a play she already knew by heart. When she finished, she set the phone down. "Thank you for telling me. Truth comes first." Lena nodded, swallowing. "The house, the crib, everything is gone. We ate leftovers on the floor last night." She took a breath. "I shouldn't have let him do that to you. I thought if I stayed quiet, that would keep the peace. I was wrong. I broke something real." Evelyn reached for the folder and drew out a slim envelope. "There are things you should understand," she said gently. "I didn't throw money at you to control you. I protected you because I know how life can turn. The down payment on the house, my name is on the papers too. We did that because the bank gave better terms with my credit and to keep the house safe for the baby if anything went wrong." "You signed." Mark signed. He never read. Lena blinked. "Your name on the deed?" Evelyn nodded. "Co-owner. Until you're on your feet or until you can refinance in your own names." She slid another document forward. "And the savings I promised for the baby. It's not a gift to you. It's a trust in the baby's name. You and I are trustees. Mark is not. That was always the plan." Lena covered her mouth. Relief and shame mixed on her face. "I didn't know all this." "I told you," Evelyn said softly. "But you were busy choosing paint colors." There was no sting in her tone, just a plain, steady truth. "I don't want to punish you. I want you safe, but safety has rules." Headlights washed briefly across the window. A second later, a knock. Harder, faster. Evelyn opened the door before he could shout the bell again. Mark stood on the step, hair uncombed, anger bright in his eyes. "We need to talk," he said, pushing past the threshold. "This is out of control. You made a scene by canceling everything. People are laughing at us." Evelyn closed the door behind him. "No, Mark, you made a scene when you threw me out of my daughter's shower." She returned to the table. "If you raise your voice in my house, you'll leave." He scoffed but sat. His gaze darted to the folder. "What is this?" "More receipts." "Papers," Evelyn said. "Things you should have read." She tapped the deed copy. "My name is on the house. I can force a sale, or I can hold it stable. Which do you think I'd prefer with a grandchild on the way?" Mark's mouth opened then closed. For the first time, his confidence wavered. "You can't." "I can," Evelyn said calmly. "But listen carefully. I am not here to destroy you. I am here to make sure my daughter and her child are not destroyed by your pride." She folded her hands. "There are two clear paths." He shifted in his chair, jaw tight. "Go on." "Path 1, Evelyn said. "You and Lena live without me. No money, no favors, no more payments. You refinance. You furnish your home yourselves. You learn exactly what your choices cost. If you choose this, I will step back completely. The trust for the baby remains, but you won't touch it. It is for medical needs, education, and the baby's future. Path 2, he asked, though his eyes said he already hated it. Path 2, Evelyn continued. You apologize. Not in a text. Not in private. You stand with Lena and apologize to me and to the people you used to humiliate me. You attend counseling. You sign a simple agreement that my support will be directed to Lena and the baby only, rent, healthcare, essentials, and you will not manage it. Any purchase above a certain amount will require both signatures, mine and Lena's. If that feels like losing power, remember you tried to take mine in a room full of witnesses. Silence filled the kitchen. Rain ticked against the glass. Mark's face went red then pale. This is blackmail. This is boundary, Evelyn said. And protection. Lena's voice came small but firm. I'll do counseling. I'll apologize. I'll do anything. But Mark, she turned to him, I won't let you speak to my mother like that again. Not ever. If you can't do this, I'm staying here for a while. He stared at her, stunned. You'd choose her over me? I'm choosing respect, Lena said. And our baby. The clock on the wall ticked 5 slow beats. Mark stood past once, then stopped. He looked at the deed copy again, at Lena's overnight bag by the door, at Evelyn's steady face. Pride wrestled with fear. I'll apologize, he said at last, the words scraped out. I'll go to counseling.
I'll sign.
It didn't sound noble. It sounded like a man counting the cost and choosing not to lose everything. Evelyn nodded.
Good.
Then we begin. They started small. That afternoon, they drafted a short message for the guests who had witnessed the scene. We're sorry. What happened at the shower was wrong. We are making it right. Mark sent it from his phone with Lena's name beside his. Evelyn did not add hers. The next day, they met with the venue manager. Mark apologized face to face. He settled the fee himself. He hated every second of it. Evelyn could see that.
Good.
Some lessons must be carried to be learned. They scheduled counseling for the week. Evelyn called the furniture company, not to reinstate the order, but to split it. Essentials now, luxuries later, and only through the new account she and Lena would manage for the baby's needs. That weekend, Evelyn cooked. Nothing fancy, soup, warm bread, a small cake with a single sugar star. She set the wooden sign on her mantel. Welcome, little star. Lena came early, eyes softer, shoulders lower. Mark arrived on time, quiet for once. They ate at Evelyn's small table. There were no speeches, just quiet, careful conversation that didn't bruise. When they finished, Evelyn brought out the quilt. I was saving this, she said, unfolding it. Patch by patch, Lena's childhood moved across the fabric. The corner of a kindergarten dress, a scrap from a school play costume, a ribbon from a ponytail. Lena pressed it to her face and cried. Not from panic this time, but from release. I thought power was loud, she whispered. But yours was quiet. I didn't hear it until I lost it. Evelyn smoothed the quilt over her daughter's knees. Power isn't the point, she said. Love with a spine is. They stayed until the rain stopped. When it was time to leave, Lena hesitated at the door. Can I stay a few nights just to breathe? She asked. You can stay as long as you need, Evelyn said. She glanced at Mark. You can come for dinner. You can come for counseling. You cannot come to command. He nodded, chastened. Understood. Later, when the house was quiet and the dishes were stacked, Evelyn stood in the doorway of the spare room where Lena now slept, the quilt rising and falling with each breath. The wooden sign leaned against the wall, waiting to be hung. The night smelled of rain and clean cotton. Evelyn touched the brooch at her shawl, the lopsided heart. Humiliation had tried to unmake her. Dignity had steadied her hand, and now, without shouting or revenge that burned too hot, her house held what mattered: truth, terms, and a future that could grow straight. Outside, the street lights flicked off one by one. Dawn moved in. A new day with rules that made sense. A family not perfect, but learning. A grandmother who would protect with quiet strength. And a little life coming soon to find a world already stitched with boundaries and love. Let us know in the comments where are you watching from, and subscribe to the channel her side of the story. Thanks for watching until here.